Hi, everyone. Welcome to Parmjit Speaks. Today is episode number 10. I can't believe I'm on episode number 10. And today I have another special guest. I have Marcella on the line with me. And I want to introduce Marcella, but I don't think I would do it justice. So I'm going to pass it over to Marcella. So Marcella, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the audience a little bit about you. How did you get into project management, specifically in the gaming industry? And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Oh, no problem. I've been working in the gaming industry for just about 25 years.
Wow.
Uh, yes, and how did I get into it? It was a job that was available at the time, but I actually got into the project management due to the different uh, tasks that needed to be done.
Uh-huh.
And I've been working on gaming projects specifically for the entire 25 years.
Wow, wow. Okay. And what were you doing? So Marcel, just for everyone's knowledge, what were you doing before you got into project management? Obviously you've been in the industry for quite a while, but what did you do before that?
It's actually funny. I used to work at a prison.
What?
Yeah, I
Okay.
worked.
Okay, obviously you're gonna have to get into that. You have to tell us a little bit more about that.
No, I worked at a prison prior to, I was working as a network administrator at the time.
Okay. Okay, network administrator. Okay, now was that a I've never worked in the prison system, but I'm curious. Was that difficult? I'm guessing you didn't have since you were a network administrator, you didn't have any interaction with inmates or that end of it, right?
No, I actually worked in the inside offices at the prison. And it's
Okay.
actually an odd thing, but I did work there. I did work with network administrator work. It wasn't very difficult. And they also helped with some administrative tasks as well. But
Okay.
I worked inside the prison. I worked there for about 4 years. It was a California state prison.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it's interesting. How did I get there to project management and gaming? There's a lot. So much.
I'm just always so interested to hear how, for how how folks get on the paths in life that they get on. Because I started off, surprisingly, so I started off in healthcare, just as a front desk person in a healthcare organization. And then I went on to do sales, and I did sales for many years. And so if someone had told me that I was going to be doing project management, I would be like, yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. I understand. It's actually funny. I had a similar path. Before the prison, I was working as an EA executive assistant for one of the officers at the prison, a captain, and then it just kind of rolled into that. And I had this opportunity in Las Vegas to come and work, and I thought I was so smart. Like I was like, oh, I know about networks, I know about computers, but
Yeah.
I thought it was so smart. So when I came here, I watched a project manager execute something where they had 5,000 devices they had to deliver, just
Okay.
laptops.
Hmm.
And this is back 2000. That's all. I mean, so everything was kind of bubbling at the time. Nothing was set. I watched him deliver 5,000 laptops to people that were coming in from all over the country, and
Yeah.
that was so fascinating. And I wanted to know what is that he's doing, and
Yeah.
that's what got me to get engaged in project management.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. And so you worked in project management in the casino industry, which we both know, right? Here, living in Vegas. So you live in Vegas, I live in Vegas, which we know is really the casino industry here is, I would say, monumental, right? I think that's where a lot of our income here comes from.
I absolutely agree.
Right.
Absolutely.
So firstly, were you always in Vegas, or did you move here? I think you indicated that when you moved here, right?
I moved here from California.
Oh, right, you did say that. Sorry. So you
No
did
problem.
say that. Okay. So you moved here, and when you came here, was gaming, going into the casino or gaming industry, was as a project manager, was that your first choice, or did you just fall into that?
I didn't know any better. It didn't matter at the time. I was just looking for a job, and
Yeah.
what got me into it was I started off as tech support, and something fascinated me about working on they were doing ATM machines on casino floors. So that was interesting to me. And I was like, okay. So I learned more about ATMs, and I ended up getting a job as a technical trainer for ATM installs. And that's what started me off in the gaming industry.
Oh,
So
okay.
first 6 months, and then suddenly I'm doing projects across
Yeah.
not just Vegas, but we also were doing projects overseas. We did projects all over. I've been to probably 65 to 70% of the casinos in the US. And I've also traveled to internationally as well.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. If you ever need a travel companion to go internationally to visit other casinos, I'm your person.
Awesome.
And so Marcella, okay, so no, so I've never worked in the gaming industry, right? So, and I think maybe a lot of folks who are listening in, not everyone who listens in is, of course, from Vegas. And so, not everyone, especially the project management industry, maybe has familiarity with the gaming industry. So, but something that I think you and I both understand is just like any other industry, right? The gaming industry also thrives on collaboration. And so if you were to think about it, so what are some things that you've done personally to maybe foster that collaboration and creativity within the organizations that you worked?
The funny thing is, I didn't know it at the time, but I would create processes for how I'm going to engage other people, and processes on how they should engage me in order
Yeah.
for me to deliver what they want. And the reason I bring that up is those processes became extremely valuable because I
Hmm.
was able to transfer that to other people. So they were able to be consistent in what they were saying, communicating, updating, sharing. So for me, I think it's all about having consistent communication with your customer, with the other teams, and within gaming. What's interesting, and I want to clarify, we're talking about casino gaming, not because it's not like you know not the fun gaming that people talk about a lot. I'm such a nerd. I don't know any better, but anyway. But yeah, they with casino gaming, you have a system. You have several systems that you have to integrate with a slot system. You have the actual casino management systems that the hotels and the actual location works runs on.
Hmm.
You have all these supplemental vendors that have systems running there. So all of those things, I've installed pieces and parts of the different systems and hardware, but everything was done with absolute collaboration from the vendor, from the hotel staff, the casino staff, and even in gaming, we're heavily regulated. So you have to work with the compliance group and regulatory body in the area that you're working in. So
Hmm.
there's so many layers to it, and a simple project could be extremely complicated by ensuring that you're adhering to the local regulatory requirements. So there's and all of this is documentation, process, communicate. All of those things are absolutely critical in being successful in gaming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can just imagine. And so I also know, Marcel, you've worked in other industries, right? Other than gaming. And so for you, how was that transition? Was it difficult? And I ask that question because a lot of my career has been spent working in healthcare. And at one point, I did change industries and I worked in finance. I actually worked for a short period of time. I worked for a cryptocurrency company. And I remember I mean, it was difficult in the sense that healthcare definitely has its own acronyms, and the acronyms in finance, cryptocurrency specifically, are very different. And so I know I there was definitely a little bit of a learning curve for me when I switched industries. But what about you? I mean, so what are some of maybe the differences you saw, and how did you adapt when you had to change industries from maybe what industries you were working in prior to joining gaming?
I'll tell you a crazy story.
Okay.
So At some point I had this thing where I was like, I do really good at project management. I've delivered a lot of systems to casinos all over the world. I've built a team to support me. I can do this for any type of industry. So I had reached out to a lady by the name of Joanna Rothman, and
Okay.
she told me, if you're so good at what you say you're doing, just build like a business plan, a project plan for any industry, and just to see where you go. Well, I took that and I decided to turn it into an actual business. I started a trucking company, and the trucking company, I didn't know anything about trucking. I
Yeah.
just didn't. And so I started this company, and it was logistics. We delivered freight all over the country. We also had a rental arm. We would rent the truck out for people to complete their commercial driving test. So I did that for about 7 years. And I did that at the same time that I had my corporate gaming job.
Wow.
So, and I'm saying all that because all of my project management skills, everything I had ever done, tied into that. It tied into
Absolutely.
being able to manage both things, manage doing my regular job and then
Mhm.
running this trucking company at night. And what makes that interesting though is, although these industries have nothing to necessarily, they're not alike, they still have the same problems. You need to have process, you need to have compliance, you need to have clear communication for sure. And the other thing I learned with trucking is culture. They have, we have culture in gaming too, but with truckers is a whole other culture happening there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it.
I can just imagine. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that because so obviously, right, I don't have experience in trucking either, but I am so curious to know. So what are some of the differences you saw maybe in the culture in gaming versus the culture in trucking?
Well, there, it's funny, like there's pockets in every culture, in every grouping, there's going to be different pockets of people. And it's people with specific skill sets. So you have the actual truck driver who's driving the big rig down the road. That person sitting in that chair, and I'm not speaking for all truckers, but the ones that I had experience with, they liked the solitude of it. So when they would get out of the truck to stop for gas or food,
Yeah.
they'd like rather sit alone. But when they were interacting with each other, it would always be like a bragging thing. And that was part of their culture. Yeah, I did this and I did that. And a lot of it was complaining, but that's
Yeah.
what they did. And I thought that was interesting. It's something I didn't understand about them. But as it relates to project management, I mean, I went through all the trouble of writing process and procedures and having tasks and checklists and things like that, but it didn't help me with the cultural part. It didn't help
Yeah.
me at all. So, but as it relates to project management, I just think the tools that I've learned at gaming for the last few decades were helpful, extremely helpful for me to be able manage both things at once.
Absolutely. And and I think you brought up a great point that project management, even though industries can vary, right? And cultures can vary, the acronyms can vary, applying project management, it's the same across all industries. And usually talk to folks about how project management can be applied to your personal life. I mean, I have project plans. I know this is silly. I've had project plans for birthday parties. I've had project plans for, I mean, everything in my life is planned out and it's task oriented. And I apply those same project management methodologies and principles to literally everything in my life. I sometimes have to remember that, okay, it's okay to be spontaneous and not have a plan, but yeah, to your point, you can literally apply project management to everything and anything.
And yes, you're absolutely right. I agree. And I think sometimes you can get kind of, people can say, oh, that's annoying, but it keeps you in a mind to be prepared for anything. What is that phrase that they say? If you fail, what is it? You fail to plan. If you
Or
fail
you-
to plan, you know you're planning to fail, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think working in project management, and it can be so grueling and so exhausting, and you can dealing with lots of different personalities, and but if you're clear and consistent in your communication, I think you'll have the most success. And if you can explain the why behind why you need this information and what the other person's or group is going to get out of it, like
Yeah.
I think it's been pretty powerful in my experience working in gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And so I want to Marcella, pivot just a little bit and talk to you a little bit about so being a woman in tech, specifically being a woman in project management. I know when I started off there were women in project management, but I didn't feel there were as many of us maybe represented in the field, maybe as there are now. I'm starting to see a lot more women in project management. Has that been your experience, or maybe what are some challenges that you may have experienced as a female in project management?
So, what I can say is I've seen a huge transition in the gaming industry in the last 20 something years. When I
Mm-hmm.
first started, most of the females were relegated to either finance or hotel or
Mm-hmm.
some type of support role. Okay,
Okay.
I mean, all the jobs within the gaming or um, working in the hotel, um, the sports books. These
Yeah.
were all males at the time, and now it's a cross section of everybody. I mean, everybody looks different. The landscape is different, and that wasn't my primary focus with the project management. I knew it was different, but I didn't focus on that. I focused on doing the work. Um, for me, I mean, people would point it out to me. Oh, you're the only Black person in the here. When I went overseas, that was more of a interesting situation. I remember being in China for
Uh-huh.
about 3 weeks we were opening the Venetian in Macau.
Okay.
And oh, it was interesting. I stood out. I mean, people would point at me, and I've never been in that situation before. And I'm like, I mean, how I can't fight everybody, you know?
Right,
So
right.
it was an interesting thing. And that was probably the most stark um, situation for me. But within the project management industry and within our grouping, um, I've definitely seen a change in how there are more people engaged. I still don't see, if I was to look at it, oh, there's women. I don't see as many women as men. There's definitely still more men working in the industry in within project management. There's definitely more work to do, but
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, I just it's definitely improved if that's your focus. For me, it's just not a focus for me because I kind of like I'm just gonna do what I got to do. It doesn't matter what package I've come in. This is who I am. I'm going to do the best work I can.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, I just wanted to say I'm really sorry that that was your experience in China. And right. I'm very sensitive to this because I don't like the feeling of someone I don't like the thought of somebody feeling like they don't belong, or that, they're standing out, for whether it's because of their gender or the color of their skin. That the thought of that makes me uncomfortable because I don't think anyone should ever have to feel that way. So I'm sorry you had to deal with that. But actually, that brings me to maybe another question. How did you work through that? I mean, obviously, for me, I know it would have made me feel uncomfortable. So how did you work through that?
You know, at the time, it was just, I had to get used to the idea in that moment of being uncomfortable. I was
Yeah.
uncomfortable for 3 weeks, 3 weeks of
Okay.
not feeling comfortable, but I didn't, we still had to get the work done, like
Yeah.
with the work being done. I think the frustration and feelings came after I left. I didn't stay there. I had to get the work done. I had a group with me. I had 6 of my team members with me, but they stayed in a separate space than I did. So I had this time every day where I had to go down the elevator. And I remember I was in the elevator. We were like at Star World, and that was the casino that we stayed at. We were in the elevator, and a lady grabbed my arm and started to rub it, like because of the color. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is what we're doing now. But I was like, okay. It was just odd and weird, but I was more fascinated with how different it was. But when
Yeah.
we got down the elevator, every day I went through some version of this, either the staring or people pointing. But how did I deal with it? It's just, it happened, it's done. I got
Yeah.
through it. You just do, what are you going to do? You're not going to turn around and yell at people and get all angry, but but I felt the feelings later. Later, I felt like, oh, wow, that's uncomfortable. I don't know if I want to go back there, but I
Yeah.
had to go back anyway. I had to go back for two more weeks, about a month later, and
Yeah.
that was okay. I got through it, and I thought it was interesting. It was a good experience for me to understand there's people are different in different parts of the world. I think that's something some of us take for granted here,
Hmm.
is what we're able to do here. You can't do it in other parts of the world. It's
Very
just
true.
so different. So whether you're a project manager or a construction person or whatever you are, I still come back to a place of gratitude for being here, being a woman, born in this country, um, over others. And it's okay. I'm fine. We're all fine. Let's
Yeah,
get through
yeah.
it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you. So I think a lot of folks, so I think, especially in other countries, I do think that there's cultural differences. I don't think that it always comes from, right, a place of, uh, and I'm going to use this term. I don't, in other countries, I don't think it necessarily comes from maybe a place of evil or I even want to say racism. I think in some other countries, it comes from a place of not understanding and not knowing because, you're not you, but like talking about folks are different. I talk about even here in the US. So I'm Sikh. So that's my religion. Um, and I go to a Sikh temple. Well, I don't want to say regularly. I'd be lying if I said that. I go when I can. And I remember when I'm from the East Coast originally, and when I was last in Jersey, I took my best friend who happens to be Caucasian to the Sikh temple with me. And she put on Indian clothes and we went and we had a great time. And she got stared at so much, so much. And it made her obviously very uncomfortable. And I said to her, I absolutely understand the discomfort because I would feel the same way if the situation was reversed. But a lot of those stares in that particular situation came from a place of not understanding and seeing something different than what folks are accustomed to. And so she and I spoke a lot about maybe educating folks and, they're curious to know who is this person who looks different than me? And although I don't believe that it's our job to educate others, I think it's always it's a learning opportunity, right?
I I agree. I absolutely agree. And there's times with whether it's at work. I mean, how many times have you been in a situation where you're the only person that looks like you in a room? That's happened to me like more often than not.
Yeah,
I just kind
same.
of, and the thing is, when I go into the situations, I'm just kind of like, look at me, go ahead, look
Yeah,
at me, look how, but look at how different I am, but look how excellent I am. That's what I
absolutely.
think. I believe that. I know I do good work, and I know I'm proud of the work that I've done over this last 2 decades. But but I'm really, it's exciting to me. It's like, let me just, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I just have to
Yeah.
do the work that I say I'm going to do. That's how I really feel.
Absolutely, because your work speaks for itself, and I'm so glad you mentioned that because you are amazing, and you are incredible at what you do, and I'm glad that you are confident in your abilities as you should be.
Thank you so much. Like,
Oh,
it's so great to have this opportunity to be on here with you. I'm happy that you did reach out and you did let me know that you were interested in working through this. And I'm just so grateful for that, because it's important. I think everybody has a voice, and all of us have to exercise it when we can, and hopefully for something positive, but I'm grateful that you're doing this. I think it will be helpful to many people.
no, no, thank you so much. Again, I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. And I think it's important to get so many different unique perspectives and unique individuals on this show. And I'm so glad that you decided to come on. And so I know we're getting to the end of our time, but what I wanted for Marcella is, can you please share with the folks on this who are listening in, what if you had a choice of a career? Let's forget about project management. What if you could have had any career? Because I want to know a little bit more about you. What is Marcella's personality? What inspires Marcella? What would you wanted to do?
I would have wanted to do like when I think about my dreams, of course, when I was a kid, it was going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a superhero. Okay, I was going to do all these things. But for work, if I wanted to do anything, I would have gone into research and medical. That's actually what I started off doing. I wanted to be a biochemist. My
Okay.
initial degree was in biochemistry, or attempt at a degree. I didn't finish it, but but I did try that. I was very interested in biology, and I thought, oh, I'm going to learn enough about us to figure out different ways to be. And I'm happy that I thought about it, but it wouldn't have been a good career path for me. But
Okay.
if I could have done anything, I would have gone into some type of science background, because
Wow.
it's it's always interesting to me. I'm a super nerd. I really am.
I was gonna say, you started saying that, and I started thinking about, because my answer would have been very different. Like, I thought I was gonna be either a Bollywood actress or a dancer or a radio personality. And then you said biochemist. I'm like, gosh, I was like, I need to think of something else. When people ask me, I need to change my answer.
No, I think that's great. I just know right now I don't have a good acumen for. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can write, but I cannot do those things. And I think maybe I'd feel differently if I had those natural talents.
Yeah.
Have it.
Well, how are we? Well, maybe we could live vicariously through each other. I will pretend that I have your brain, and you can pretend you can have my dancing skills. Well, Marcella, again, this has been absolutely amazing. I thank you for not just your insights, but for all the work that you have done in the gaming industry. Oh, actually, before I let you go, and I know we're out of time, but
No problem.
this, so we had the Super Bowl here in Vegas recently, right? Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, so we had the Super Bowl here recently. As a project manager, did you have any involvement? Did you have any projects that were focused on getting prepared for the Super Bowl here in Vegas? I'm just curious.
Not directly. I've worked on projects related to systems on the floor that allowed
Okay.
customers to have a better experience. But specifically for the Super Bowl, I didn't have anything, but some of my counterparts did. They worked on uh, the betting terminals that they use to do this, to place bets. And they also worked on other projects related to the hotel readiness, making sure the systems are up and running. And
Hmm.
I did not work on anything for the Super Bowl, and I'm happy. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm happy it went very, very well. And I know a lot of people put a lot of work into making it happen.
Sure.
And it was definitely a pinnacle moment for Las Vegas.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I was thinking about the Super Bowl, the first thing that came to mind was, oh my gosh, this is such a huge project. And I was thinking about all the project managers that were working on it. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And again, I will speak to you soon.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is great. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.